It's Magnus versus Hikaru, the number 1 and number 2 blitz players in the world. Titled Tuesday, 7th of May, late tournament, and guess what? Magnus Carlsen opens with a proper opening, the Roy Lopez or Spanish game, because he needs to win this one to win the overall online elite tournament. Hikaru just needs to draw, so he goes with his rock solid Berlin defense, and what a game ensues here. Nothing dull about this, and just the craziest chess I've seen in a long time. D3 from Magnus, going for this line, keeping the queens on the board, doesn't want the infamous Berlin endgame. We get bishop c5, c3 keeps an eye on a quick knight d4, and Hikaru strikes at the centre, early doors. You can capture that pawn, or pop a pony on d2, as Magnus does. We see castles, now Magnus decides he should take. Queen recapturing, centralised, powerful, so the bishop drops back, kicks it back, evacuate the dance floor, and now b4, gaining space. Magnus building a nice little bed here for this bishop, tucked in. This one stumbling backwards, not as powerful. Castles played, a6, keeping an eye on pawn to b5, and Magnus renews the threat, although not just yet. His rook on a1 undefended, so b5 would be premature. Hikaru's best move here is bishop to f5. Get your bits out. Very important whether you're playing online or over the board. But he goes knight to d5 instead, moving the same piece twice in the opening. A big no-no. Are we in the opening here or into the middle game? Who knows, right? Many a chess player have lost themselves in a black hole. A wormhole does appear when you try and figure out too deeply where the opening ends and the middle game begins. Be cautious if you try it. Queen to c2 played. Rook e8 now, very natural. Rook e1, Magnus copying, and the Silicon Overlord wants bishop to g4 here as one of the top moves. Get developing, give up the e5 pawn even, but you do get a lot of play. But Hikaru goes bishop to f8, looks so natural to open up the defense, but you just relinquished some major control of g5, and that is a problem, as we're about to see with this move of pawn to d4. It's actually amazing that it's move 14 and there's this incredible attack all of a sudden, largely to do with all of these pieces parked on the back rank. And the fact you can't take the pawn. We've gone to the back cave here, analysis mode. Here you can chop off the rooks. Queen recaptures and it was overloaded. Couldn't defend rook and knight, so white in the driver's seat. We come back here, that's why Hikaru did knight to b6, and Magnus already has this amazing attacking move. He can crash through on f7, what a shot, distract the king, then take a second pawn, and these are the ideas in the air. Knight e4 to start. Open the eyes of the bishop on c1, support the knight to g5, all the pieces flowing. Black in a bit of a traffic jam over here, but okay, not entirely clear. Magnus just goes bishop to b3, says fine, still got a great attack. Hikaru should go bishop e6, the prudent defensive move, but he plays queen f6, bringing that queen out fairly early doors into the game here. You know, not ideal when you still haven't fully developed, and it starts getting harassed with knight to e4, queen g6, and now this move is important. a5 from Magnus, and where is this knight actually going? The only sensible square is d7, and now we see the big problem here. This bishop blocked from joining the attack. This one now an absolute monster. Sorry, joining the defense, I should say. Now Magnus starts with knight h4. Again, he could have actually taken in one move there. Some crazy ninja lines. The queen comes to h4, hits this knight. Surely it has to move. No, again you can do these amazing sacrifices, or you can play this. Magnus doesn't even touch this knight. because if the queen captures, well, you can take here with check, king goes, you pick up a loose rook, and the attack rages on. You're in exchange ahead as well as a pawn. So Hikaru goes knight d8, defending the f7 square, but once again, look at the sorry state of his pieces. Only playing with a queen in a kind of semi-decent part of the board, that spells trouble. Magnus now finally saves this knight. And here, in this position, we see just the most horrendous blunder I think I've ever seen between these two guys. Number 1 versus number 2. Hikaru picks up his pawn and pushes it to h6, saying to Magnus, get your knight out of my house. But it's a massive, massive blunder. The queen's no longer covering this square, of course. Can you see the move? The checkmate in one move. Magnus Carlsen should pick up the queen and checkmate on h7. We've gone to analysis mode. We're in the back cave. He didn't play this move. It's unbelievable. We come back. He misses mate in 1. He retreats with knight to e4, and Vladimir Kramnik at this very moment, spectating the game, can't believe his eyes. We know what he does when he suspects a cheater, right?
Okay, let's do the procedure. Block. This is first what I do.
But the opposite is also true. At this very moment, he unfurls the Kramnik Scrolls, a rarely seen document. This is leaked footage that we managed to obtain here on Epic Chess. Kramnik struck out Magnus Carlsen's name from this document. It's a list of suspected online chess cheaters growing in size day after day. Magnus no longer a suspect. This move just way too patzer. Noob, incredible. This guy can't be cheating. Queen g6 from Hikaru, breathing a huge sigh of relief. Magnus Carlsen can't believe it. He now spends 40 seconds, no doubt realises what's happened, goes knight g3, offering a queen exchange. He's going back to what he knows best, an endgame here, and Hikaru starts developing. He cannot believe it. Here's actual footage of his face during the whole moment. Magnus now goes bishop a4, hitting this really juicy diagonal. Full kebab. It's like a triple headshot in Call of Duty. Magnus wants it for the montage. Hikaru goes bishop d6, and after knight f5, Hikaru is in trouble if he doesn't start unraveling his pieces. Never play f6, as Ben Feingold would say. Support your centre, sure, but things unravel fast. This the best move. Just try and get some stuff developed, but it allows Magnus this Terminator sequence. He starts with knight takes on d6. Pawn recaptures, then this one, this one, this one, this one, rook captures, and in this moment he's a pawn ahead, but Hikaru does finally get to develop, connect his rooks. No one likes split rooks, right, as Danny King would say on Power Play Chess. And Magnus actually has some development problems. You know, if he takes here and then tries to save his knight like this, keep the pawn structure intact, well, he blunders a mate in 1. If Hikaru sees it, who knows, right, in this game. But bishop e3 therefore played. It allows the rook to cover this back rank here, develops a piece. Hikaru shatters the pawns. Magnus now forced to deal with his rook, chucks in the Zwischenzug, whispers it as he does like the top pros do. Rook recaptures, g takes on f3 and knight d5. Hits the pawn on c3 and the e3 bishop. Bishop d4 looking very natural, but you allow knight f4. Rook open on the e-file here. So Magnus goes bishop d2, dominating this knight. This is what a bishop does when it's 2 squares away, spraying in both directions there. And now if you go rook e2, well, rook d1 covers, king f1 on the way, kicking the rook back, and what have you actually achieved? White starts unraveling. So this is a great move by Hikaru. Trickier, eyeing an undefended piece, and Magnus just not finding the best stuff now. Must have been a bit rattled. He should play pawn to c4. No more knight takes on b4 or bishop captures. Plus you cover this square. But instead, he plays king f1. Terrible move. Hikaru plays the simple tactic, simple for these guys anyway. Knight takes on b4. Magnus recaptures, the bishop drops, the material's restored, rook c1, Hikaru's home free, making the draw, or is he? He should just go rook to d6, cover the pawn, but instead he goes rook to d4, allows this one to drop, takes here sure, but now drops on a6. Now presumably after rook a4, Hikaru thought, fine, my rook's actively placed, these are doubled, must be a draw. But things get weird. We get rook a3, now f4 played, g5, and Magnus has a choice. He can take here. I click down this whole line. The problem is at some point the rook has to come over. This rook takes here. Technically should be headed towards a draw. The computer shows. So Magnus just immediately goes for it. Swaps the h pawn for a pawn. Now we get rook h5, creating a pin here. If he'd captured straight away, by the way, the rook would just take back. So we get this check. The king staggers up. Now takes on f4. Check played. King h7. Rook g4 here. And now f6. Probably a better move. But f5 played. And Magnus doesn't take the pawn. Hikaru's idea then to just come in with the king. He goes rook g5. Great move. Easy to miss. Low on time. We get this check. This pawn gobbled up. Rook h3, going after this one, rook g2 covers, rook h5, king marching in, f4 now, and here a strange move from Hikaru. Why not just wait with king h7? The rook covers, how are you making progress? You know, if here, then here, not easy, this should be a technical draw. Not sure what Magnus would have done to make progress, but rook h3 played, drops a second pawn. This is now tough as old boots to hold to a draw in a low time pressure situation. These is how the moves played out now. But there's still a twist and turn to come, right? Don't assume what's going to happen here. Magnus, of course, starts making progress, bringing in this king. But even the endgame go isn't infallible. Look at this moment. The evaluation bar dropping because Hikaru could have taken. King recaptures, this pawn drops, and it's just a drawn endgame. Black's got the opposition, you know, ahead of the pawn, just keep stepping back and then taking the opposition. You force a stalemate or the loss of a pawn. But Hikaru doesn't take, trusts Magnus, leaves the rooks on. They're split-second decisions, of course. Now Magnus making progress, but king g5 is the winning move. He instead goes king e6, however. Excuse me. It allows king takes on h6, a drawing move, but again Hikaru misses it. Just for the point, to show you some endgame stuff, this is why it's a draw. Yes, the rook blocks, but now rook a6. And the problem is you can't make progress wherever you move the king or the pawn drops. And otherwise you keep checking. But this one played. Now the king marches in. This is subtly different. King takes now. Sorry. Rook a5, now f6, now king takes, and the pawn and king too far advanced. Is Magnus going to throw this one? Surely not, right? Although what a weird game. This is how the moves played out. We get king e7 here. Why didn't Hikaru check? Well, sure you can, but it doesn't matter. King steps away, you come behind the pawn, but no good. It queens, it's supported. And if you keep checking, doesn't matter. You just snake your way all the way up. This is going through. So this was played. Now the queen made. Hikaru checks, check, but block and counter check. Simple way to finish the game. Magnus knows his rook and king checkmates, I'm fairly sure. This is the final position. What a crazy, incredible game. And if you thought this was weird, have a look at the video on screen. The opening that's taking the chess world by storm right now. Craziness, love it. Title Tuesday at its best. Hit subscribe and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.